Mr. Cox, how you doing this evening, brother?
All right, how you doing, man?
Good, man. We back, man. We don't have our third partner with us, newly third partner, Mark Edwards, but we're gonna keep it rolling. This time, man. So
Yeah.
just to jump right into it, man, we're gonna talk a little bit about Black economic viability. A
Mhm.
look at the latest political news, um, and talk a little bit about Black Wall Street, and how can we help to stimulate Black people, what we spend money on, those type of things. So I'm looking forward to the episode. As always, man, we want you to hit our social media sites. We put our shows up on YouTube almost immediately. There's always shorts we put up on Twitter, Spoutable. So check us out. Subscribe, please subscribe, and let us know what we're doing. All
Yeah,
right,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're gonna miss Mark this week, but Mark has been a great contributor so far in season 2, and we hope to see Mark back on pretty soon here. Yeah, look at all our social media type stuff. I'm a Suleiman do a great job with that. I get caught up sometime and I don't post like I should, but I'm gonna get up there and start posting some stuff too. Got to get active because I'm a firm believer if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And if you're not getting out there and telling the story, now I've been doing pretty good on Facebook. With every day I put something out there on Facebook because nobody else uh, nobody else is putting stuff on Facebook,
yep.
that I see that are just regular people. Of course, you got your stars and everything that put their stories out there. But I always tell this story, like this weekend, my daughter had a gymnastics meet and I put the pictures from the gymnastics meet. She got second place, and man, I can get 100 likes and 20, 30 comments. But if I put up there that Republicans are playing in your face, Donald Trump is playing in your face, the cuts they're making right now is not for economic cuts, it's for power grab. It's not economic cuts, and they're playing in your face. When I do that, I get 2 likes and maybe 1 comment.
Of
You know,
course.
yeah. So when you give them stuff that they can use, they don't want to hear it. And I'm at this point, I'm just putting it out there now, and maybe just maybe somebody will take it in. So I'm just putting it out there. But before we get started, and you gave us all the subjects and stuff we're going to talk about tonight, and we're gonna talk about the viability, economic viability, uh, in the Black community. How can we make it happen and stuff? And as I was looking at this subject this week, and I was reading some stuff about it, I got this one real short video to tell you about. Everybody know the Black Wall Street, so I'm just gonna give you this little video about Black Wall Street. But Black economic viability is more than a Black Wall Street, and we're gonna ask some real provocative questions today. So let's get to it. And while I'm getting to the channel, um, let's
O.W. Gurley, a son of former slaves, created the Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as a black refuge during the Jim Crow era. By the early 1920s, it earned the nickname Black Wall Street because it was one of the most concentrated areas of black wealth in America. During World War I, there was a huge labor shortage because most of the workforce were off fighting in the war. This led many African Americans to leave the South and migrate to northern and western cities for economic opportunities. This great migration created new black neighborhoods across the country that celebrated their blackness, i.e., the Harlem Renaissance. When the war ended, there were numerous race riots around the country because there was increased competition in the labor force, and many ethnic enclaves shared borders and economic interests. There were so many race riots in the summer of 1919 that it was nicknamed the Red Summer. The Tulsa race riots started when a 19-year-old black male was wrongfully accused and arrested for assaulting a white woman. A group of black community members tried to set him free and started a chain reaction that would change Tulsa forever. For the next 16 hours, a white mob backed by the KKK destroyed most of Black Wall Street, with many accounts claiming that bombs were even being dropped by airplanes overhead. By the end of the riot, over 800 were hospitalized, an estimated 10,000 were left homeless. 35 city blocks housing 1,200 1,256 residences were destroyed, and 600 successful businesses were lost, including 21 restaurants, 30 grocery stores, 2 movie theaters, and a hospital. No one knows the exact death count from the riots, but the numbers range from a few dozen to around 300. Much of the Greenwood district was eventually rebuilt and remained a place where Black businesses could thrive. But the end of legal segregation saw the movement of Black people and Black dollars out of the community. Keeping wealth inside your community was a necessity for survival during segregation. The dollar circulated 36 to 100 times among Black businesses in the Greenwood district before it left the neighborhood, compared to some estimates that say modern Black communities only keep dollars for 6 hours. In June 2001, the Oklahoma State Legislature passed the 1921 Tulsa Race Riot Reconciliation Act, which provided college scholarships for the descendants of Greenwood, a park to commemorate the events, and some economic development in the Greenwood district. Was this enough to make up for what happened?
Okay, there we have it. I just want to give some history behind and some context on what we're saying. I'm sorry. Hold on. Like I was saying, that video give us a little content, tell us what we're talking about, give you some idea of what Black economic viability looks like. As the video talked about, the Black dollar stayed in the community for a longer period of time than it does now, and it recycled through the community instead of going outside the community. So I got a couple things I want to talk about with that, but first I want to ask Suleiman a question. The best question I got right now is, what does Black economic viability look like to you today?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question to just say that, because unfortunately in the Black community is that we have lost our desire to understand that what we do, how we act, what we spend our money on is representative of us. You got a lot of people out there that all they care about is what they can get, how much money they can make, how much money they can be paid to do something, and they're not focused on what that does to our community. One of the things that our people have always done since we've been in this country is recognize that no one's going to help us but us. But we've lost that in our community. It is really about, how do I get the money? And some Black people, and I'm going to be difficult on our ladies tonight. Some of our ladies are out of order, completely out of order. And a lot of our men are out of order. We've always had a small fraction of our community that's been out of order, but now they get paid to be out of order, and they're perfectly fine with being paid a certain amount of money to be out of order. You know, the way that some of our ladies dress, the way some of our ladies act, the way some of our ladies speak. Same thing goes for our men. That has to do with money. People don't want to spend money or don't want to spend their resources in communities that have no standards, no accountability. And you see that now in the way that a lot of these companies who have traditionally been quasi-allies of ours, who are now turning their back on us. Sure, they want our money. So what they'll do, for instance, Target. What Target would do is Target will say, "Oh, let me put Busta Rhymes in a commercial, rapping about Target." And Black people will say, "Oh, they got Busta Rhymes. They're paying Busta Rhymes. Let's go to Target and spend our money." When behind the scenes, they're doing everything they can to keep us poor and ignorant.
Right.
Walmart did it for years. Target's doing it now. Amazon is on board with it as well. And that has to do with our viability. I mean, how much money do we spend annually on female beauty products? We spend $10 billion on female beauty products. That comes with the wigs, the weave, the eyelashes, the makeup, the fingernails, all of that. None of that money is recycled into our community. We're going to Asian companies and buying hair. We're
that
going
is
to Asian people to get our fingernails done. We're
that
buying
is a
our hair.
hard
Right.
that's a hard what's it called to break into, hard market to break into.
Well, it's hard to break into because we support it, but it wouldn't be a hard product to break into if Black people said, we're not going to buy from this Asian company or this white company. We're going to buy from this Black company that makes our hair. But we don't do it. We go right to the Korean fingernail shops and places like that and spend our money, $10 billion. Imagine if we took $5 billion of that $10 billion, ladies, and use it on our sons.
Yeah, exactly.
So that our sons can be grow into men that can come to the community, marry you, marry your children, and build Black families. But we don't do that anymore. But go ahead.
Yeah, and it's I can piggyback on that, and I can give you a personal experience on that. At one point in time, I saw the market in the hair business. I saw that market, and I was like, let me get into this market, you know.
Yep.
So I built me a web page, got me a source, a distribution source for my hair, made it laid out and everything, and we're gonna give people 10% discount, 20% discount just to get started. Talk to all the people I know, and lo and behold, they went with the company. Well, I'm used to getting my hair from here, so and they continue to get their hair from there. Could never get a foothold, man. Could never get a foothold.
Yeah.
And I was in the beginning, I was thinking, do I do a brick and mortar or do I do it online? And I'm so glad I chose it online, because if I did a brick and mortar, I would have went in the hole really bad. By doing online, I didn't have to hold any stock or anything like that. I didn't have to store it anywhere, and so I got into it, dipped my toes into it, and got out of it, because they when women find a place that they want to buy their stuff, their hair and beauty products, they don't deviate that much, and it's most of the time it's those Asian stores and everything.
Sure, it's comfortability. I mean, I understand that. You're comfortable with something. I don't have a problem with that. But my point is that you can be that way. If that's the way you want to be, fine. Then I don't want to hear your mouth when somebody disrespects us. I don't want to hear your mouth when somebody, when law enforcement officer or somebody disrespects you. Because if you're not willing to have a little bit of inconvenience, because Black people used to understand that. I mean, part of the reason why the civil rights movement was such a success is because Black people realized, you know what? I'm not going to ride that bus. Yeah, it's easier for me to ride that bus to get to work. But if I have to do something different, it's going to take me a little bit longer to get to work in order to help the community, I'm going to do it. With that part, generically speaking, not all of us, but a large percentage of our community doesn't think like that anymore. They literally think that it's only about them.
Right.
Until it isn't. Until somebody smacks you upside the head or someone takes something away from you that you need. But we have people in our community who think it's only about them. One more example is, look at all of these so-called entertainers that ran to do Donald Trump parties. You think they did that because they support him? No, most of them don't. They did it because they got paid.
Exactly.
And as long as we have that mentality, when we don't understand that you have an ethnic responsibility. I mean, you have responsibility to your ethnic image. We're going to be where we are.
Yeah, and I'm glad we covered that question or that topic, because it takes us right into the next question, and that question is can you simulate Black Wall Street on a larger scale? Can you do that? And I'm before I forget, I'm kind of old and stuff, and sometimes stuff leave my mind. So I'm going to talk about it real quick because I've been thinking about this question. When you put something, when you try to simulate Black Wall Street on a bigger scale, you got to do something like franchise, like McDonald's do. when you buy a franchise, you're buying an image, you buying something that's proven, and something that can go anywhere you take it. And the question is, can you simulate Black Wall Street on a larger scale? Can you make a Black Wall Street in Alexandria? Can you do one in Atlanta? Can you do one on a wider scale and everything? Um, and that's what I was talking about when we were talking earlier. I wish I had an answer for it. I really don't. I really don't. I just know it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't think we need that. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I don't think that we need
that's
another,
good.
Yeah, I don't think that we need another Black Wall Street. What we need is to understand the game, and we need to understand who our allies are, who our friends are, and what our ultimate goal is. And if our ultimate goal is that we need to build respectability in our community, build a power where when someone attacks us, that everybody comes together to ensure that individual feels the pain of the Black community. Mm-hmm. That's what we need to build. That's my idea of the 2025 Black Wall Street, is that when somebody,
Go ahead.
Yeah, when someone, like, for instance, you hear some congressman that comes out and says, oh, well, the reason so-and-so got that job is because of DEI. Well, what Black people should do is say, okay, congressman, anybody that does business with this congressman will not get Black business, period.
Right.
We don't have to get out there and protest and act stupid and yell and call them all type of whatever we call them. But we say whoever does business with him, any company that does business with this person will not receive a dime from the Black community.
Right.
That's what we need to do. And we spend the type of money in this country where we could do that if everybody, generally speaking, not everybody, you're not going to get everybody, but generally speaking, we do that. Secondly, I think what we need to do is stop allowing people to infiltrate the Black community. And we do that a lot because Black people are very open. I think it's our God. I think because we're in the image of God, we have God's belief in that we should treat people respectfully. My opinion is, I'm a Malcolm X type guy, is you can donate all you want. You want to donate money, Jeff Bezos, Walmart, Target, all these companies, Coke, you want to donate money to the Black community, you absolutely can do it, but you get no influence.
Gotcha. Oh, okay.
No influence. You can donate all you want. We have no issues at all with you being a financial ally of ours, but you don't come in and tell us how to run our community and what should be important to us. And what we've done over the last 40 years and 50 years is we've allowed companies and people to come into our community and have influence on how we operate.
And that goes into another question we're going to ask a little later. Another question that I didn't have on the agenda, but by just talking, I wanted to see what you thought about it. Should leadership be decentralized, or should we centralize and bring all so-called leaders together? Because I think a lot of our leaders today are afraid. They're afraid to speak their mind. They're afraid to stand up and say what's on their mind. And so kind of like a revolution. What do you think? Should it be centralized, or do you think everybody work in their own neighborhood and get their neighborhood up to snuff?
Well, if you remember, and I think you're going to bring up something later on, is what I said, and I think the brother's name, I always forget his name. His name is Naim Muhammad, right?
Yeah, we're gonna say that for later.
So, but I'll just bring up the point to answer your question. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in complete centralized thinking, and Black people should understand that we've done this for over a couple hundred years, and every time we get that one individual, that person who is actually the senior, the central point of our discussion, they assassinate, they kill. So we don't need to have that. What we do need to do is to say, here's the goal. 1, 2, here's our strategy. Here's our strategic plan. Mm-hmm. This is the ultimate goal for our community. And we can have multiple ways to get to that strategic goal. It doesn't have to be the same. Black people are not monolithic. We can join whatever organization we want to join as long as we're getting to the ultimate goal. So I don't believe in centralized think. I believe that it should be multiple people, multiple different organizations trying to get to the same goal. And we don't have to agree. I don't agree with a lot of things that Black leadership is going on today, but I still understand that I support the ultimate goal.
Gotcha.
That's what
And
I'm talking
that's the kind of conversation I'm looking for, and that it opens people's mind to different things and not the same old thing that we've had in the past. So
Right.
that's the kind of conversation I'm looking for. And like you said, when you have that one so-called great leader, it's easy to dispose of them and to discredit them and get to the point where how fast we forget and we go up against each other all the time. So so I thanks for bringing some clarity to that. But my next question goes into what you talked about earlier about money and influence. I've always looked at the NAACP kind of sideways, not because I don't agree with what they're doing. I don't think and not because I don't think they're not a great organization, or even the National Action Network by Reverend
Al Sharpton.
Sharpton. Yeah, Reverend Sharpton. Thank you for giving me those words. I think those are all, like you said, all good groups. All of them got different missions, but I think their mission and all of them have the same goal. They got different missions, but all of them have the same goal. I just think that they have to have really define when they take money from Coca-Cola and they take money from McDonald's. Like you said, I just don't think they should sell their soul to those companies because they took money from them. I just don't think they should. So that brings us to our next question for tonight. How do you get wealthy Black people to invest in other Black people? We have an abundance of wealthy Black people now, more than we've ever had in our lifetime, for sure. We got billionaires and millionaires all over the world. Unfortunately, a lot of the millionaires are athletes and entertainers. Billionaires, we don't have too many athletic or entertainer billionaires. We have business billionaires and everything. So how do we get these people with their millions and billions of dollars that they invest in other things? How do we get them to, like kind of like what Bill Gates does? Bill Gates he has this goal of giving a certain amount of his money. I think it's was it 20 or 30% of his wealth away every year. He regenerated anyway, but he gives about 30% of his wealth out every year. How do we get these Black people to invest in young, gifted Black men and say, hey, y'all are the backbone of the family. Come on, do something different. How do we get them to do that?
Okay, I mean that's a great question. I mean, I think that's an extremely long conversation that we don't have time for today. But I will say this: first of all, we need to take athletes, entertainers, performers out. They're not us. They're not us in any way, shape, or form. We should not be looking to them as leadership. They're not leadership. Okay, they're just not. But we do have academics. We do have educated Black men. Some educated Black women that understand the Black community. You have to have something for people to donate to. We sit in front of our TV every day and we see commercial after commercial. We see, program after program, people trying to get you to donate to something. And the one thing that you always see when they're trying to get you to donate is, here's what we want. Here's the goal. The goal is that we want to ensure that every child in the United States has a household. That's the goal. It's a long goal. It's probably an unachievable goal, but it's a goal that they put to you to say, if you donate $19.99 a month, or if you donate $9.99 a month, we're going to put it towards that goal. What Black people need to do is come up with a goal. What is our goal? Our goal is to say, okay, we want 30% of our Black men in this country to graduate from college and get into a business degree, a degree that has a upward ladder. We never talk about that in our community. We never talk about real jobs, jobs that normal people do, jobs that require a certain amount of certifications, a certain amount of education, a certain amount of training and experience to move up the chain. Right? We just focus on guys who are millionaires, athletes, entertainers, as opposed to focusing on an average Black man that makes about $50,000 a year, but has the ability to move up the chain in his company or his organization to get to where it needs to be. That needs to be the goal. What is our strategic plan? What is the ultimate goal for the Black community? So take entertainers out of it. They're not us. Take rappers, musicians out. They're not us.
Right.
Talk to people like Michael Eric Dyson or what's the scientist's name? The neuroscience. I can't think of it.
I know you're talking about. I can't think of his name either.
Neil somebody.
Neil deGrasse.
Yeah, Neil deGrasse.
Yeah.
That guy is an academic and he understands. Now, I'm not saying he has to be pro-Black, but he has education that I think our children, our men, should be looking towards. We should invest in our community, invest into our young boys, because a strong male community ensures that the rest of the community rises. And that's what I was saying earlier when I said our media is Black women driven. All the narratives that you hear are narratives coming from Black women. And I know this is not a popular topic that people want to talk about, but we need to start investing in our boys. Investing in our men, get our men to college, get our men into trades, electrician, plumber, those type of things. So that they can become role models for our young girls that are coming up to look to marry. Our young women are looking out for guys that make $1 million. Who makes $1 million? Most men don't make $1 million. That's the 0.5%.
Well, and that's what I was talking about. I don't want us to look towards these entertainers and ball players to be our role model, but they do have something we need, and that's capital. But most of them, the people that run their money, their accountants, are not Black, so they're not gonna think in that way and say, let's donate to the Black community this amount of money, and let's donate, because they got to donate this money anyway, because they got to get tax write-offs. So their accountant look at what they brought in this year, and they say, okay, what's 30% of this, or what 20% of this? We're gonna donate it, and they start dishing out money to different organizations like it's candy, because it's not theirs. But if they don't, if the people that money belongs to are not active and say, I know you do my books for me and you do all my tax stuff, but this is what I want you to do. I want 80% of the stuff that I donate to go to Black organizations. The other 20% can go wherever you want it. But I want 80% of my donations to go to Black organizations. And you gotta be, in my opinion, it has to be that high, because if it's not gonna make a dent. It's just not gonna make a dent. If you give us 20% and give the 80% to other organizations, and it's just not like when I do my little donation, it don't, it don't amount to that much, but I do donate. And when I do donate, I donate to the Cancer Society, because that's a good cause and everything. The other thing I donate to is HBCUs, because when I donate to the HBCUs, I make sure they understand that this money is to go directly to a student. A lot of people don't understand that either. When you donate money to a HBCU, sometimes they take that money and it goes towards operation, the salary of the professors, and keeping the lights on, which they have to do too. But when I donate my money, I let it go to a student. I specifically say go to a student, so a student can stay. So that's what I'm trying to say. They got a resource that we need, and how do we get them to do a better job of getting that money to us and everything?
Well, I mean, I will push back on that and say I don't think that we need them. I literally do not. I do not think that we need entertainers and athletes. Sure, they have a lot of money, but they don't have any skin in the game, and they're just going to throw money out. The Shaq does it all the time. Shaq is he's the big teddy bear, but Shaq does it all the time. Shaq's I'll pay $10,000 for some kid that was murdered the funeral. So what? What does that do? That does nothing. It makes the one family happy that you paid for their funeral, but the kid's still dead. You haven't done anything for the family. What is the family going to do after the funeral's over? That same family that raised that child that went out and was murdered is going to do the exact same thing they were doing 2 days ago. My point is that the Black community, we're 15% of this country. We're 50 million people.
Mm-hmm.
If 50 million people, Minister Farrakhan said this in 1995 at the 100 Million Man March.
Mm-hmm.
If every Black person in the United States gives $5, we've essentially raised $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. If every Black person in the United States, we don't need LeBron James to donate $300,000. All we need is John in Chicago to give $5.
Right.
That's it. $5. What you pay for, less than what you pay for a Starbucks coffee.
Right.
$5, and we got $1 billion. Then at that point, we can start building. That's why we have to have a strategic plan. We have to put people in charge who have worked before and understand what we're trying to do as a community. We need to evaluate them. We need to evaluate how they're spending the money. All that needs to be done.
Right.
So the athletes are good. Let's bring the athletes in for, do shows and stuff like that for people to see. I'm perfectly fine with that. But I don't want athletes or entertainers.
So what I read and hear you saying is we can do it. Just regular people can do it on our own if we put our mind to it, pretty much.
Yeah, and I don't talk about, I don't particularly like to put my financial situation out there. But my wife and I, from a household standpoint, United States, not a Black household, but a household standpoint, we're in 95. We're in the top 5%.
Right.
The amount of money that my wife and I bring into our household, we're in the top 5% in the country. There are a lot of us. I always give statistics about saying, that 60. There are more than 2.4 Black people in this country in the upper class of the United States.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There are over 2.4% of us 2.4 million of us that are in the upper class of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in it. I'm excluding entertainers,
right.
And those people. I'm talking about regular Joes like me and you.
Right.
So that's who we need to convince to say, hey, Tony and your wife, or Suleiman and my wife, would you be willing to give $100 every 3 months, or a couple $1,000s a year to this organization that is here to help people who share your reflection?
Yeah,
we're the only community in the United States that gets shamed for wanting to help our community. Everybody else does it. Jewish people do it. Asian people do it. Hispanic people do it. Everybody does it. Arabs do it. They all do it and support their communities, and no one says a word. But the minute that Black people say, you know what, I'm going to do something for my own people, then all of a sudden we get shamed. So we need to stop that. We need to start telling people, go pack sand. We can come to the table and talk about what's best for the United States, but we can't be a great country until my community, the Black community, is at the table, is at the same table that you're at.
Yeah, gotcha. And that's sort of what we're gonna get into in our last segment of on this topic anyway. Is you said something back in season 1, probably episode 2 or 3, somewhere in there. The blueprint. Yep. I call it the blueprint. It got some of our most likes and our most views and everything. You said this is nothing new. There's a blueprint out there. All we have to do is follow it and everything. So I want you to talk about that a little bit, okay?
Sure. Yeah, I think what you're talking about is a lot of people don't, folks don't understand. I'm a Muslim. I'm not part of the Nation of Islam, but I'm a Muslim. But I have read.
I'm glad you said that, because everybody that say that, when you say I'm a Muslim, they think you're a Nation of Islam Muslim.
Yeah, which is ridiculous, because there are Muslims that look like me all over the world. I mean, we're not a minority. There are a lot of Black people that share my reflection that believe in Allah, who are Muslims, and there are a lot of us here in the United States as well. But anyway, I'm not part of the Nation of Islam, but I admire what the Nation of Islam does, and I think that's a blueprint for African Americans in this country. And one of the things that I always talk about is image. And I am a stickler for image.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say that one of the things that people who don't have our best interests in mind want to do in this country is to get people to not see us as human,
right?
To see us as criminals, to see us as losers, to see us as unredeemable. And the way to do that is to destroy our image, which is why I can't stand to see people walk around 40, 50-year-old men dressed like 20-year-olds,
right?
Like children. You go to the mall, you can't tell the difference between the father and the kid because of the sneakers and the throwback jerseys and all that nonsense.
Right.
Dress like a man. So image is important. And I say that when I'm talking about the Nation is, one, when you hear somebody from the Nation speak, they speak intelligently. They don't speak about things that they don't understand. They don't speak about things that don't concern them. They speak about things that are representative of the Nation of Islam. They dress appropriately. You're never going to see a man or a woman who is part of the Nation of Islam who is dressed like a bum. They just don't do that. Why? Because image is important to them, which is why you don't ever hear on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News of some Muslim getting beat down by a police officer or some Muslim woman being disrespected in some store, because there is a respect factor that comes with your appearance. Black people used to understand that. We used to be one of the best dressed people in this country 60, 70 years ago. Even when we didn't have a lot of money, the stuff that we had was respectable and it looked nice. So the blueprint is men, I think, in our community is regaining control of our community, regaining control over who has access to our community, regaining control of who is able to sell and bring stuff into our community. I think that needs to happen, and Muslims do that. You don't go into Chicago, New York, a mosque and sell ridiculous hair products or alcohol or things like that. You don't do that. Drug dealers don't go into their communities or communities where they are prevalent.
They keep them out.
Right, they kick them out. They don't walk around with guns. They don't walk around with guns. They're not shooting and killing people. It's the respect. It's, look, you're going to pay for the damage that you're trying to make in our community. And that's what I think we need to do. That's what I'm saying. The blueprint is to men in our community to say, no, that's not going to happen in our community. You are not going to come to my party or to my organization dressed the way you dress. You're a Christian. And, I know from a lot of my friends that are Christians, I know when I was going to church when I was a kid and I went to a Baptist church or a Protestant church or something like that, you didn't have some woman walking there with skirts on up to their thighs.
Right.
Because the elder women in that church are like, nah, sister, that ain't going to happen. You had ministers in there. You didn't have women coming into church pregnant or unmarried, having 2 and 3 baby daddies. You didn't do that. That didn't happen in the community. And I think that we need to get back, to that, having standards.
Right.
You can do whatever
that's the key word right there, standards.
You can do whatever it is you want. I mean, we're former military. And you know how it is in military. Military is like, hey, here's a standard. If you don't pass that standard or you don't meet that standard, we're going to cycle you out.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do that in our community. And I keep saying men, Cox, because I think our men need to say, we're going to take back control of our community.
That's fair. I think that's fair. Right.
So that means fathers, things like that. And then, if I could just kind of get off that for just a second and say, guys, no one's saying you can't have sex. You can have sex, but you don't have to have a child.
Exactly.
No one's saying that you can't go out and chase young ladies. Whatever. If they're into that, you can do that, but you don't have to impregnate them. Same thing for young ladies. Look, young ladies, you want to have sex, you can have sex, but you don't have to get pregnant. There are 32 different ways to prevent pregnancy.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So my overall point is the Nation of Islam has shown us.
Hey, let me before you leave that, let me say this real quick.
Yeah, you go ahead.
And I think men should take responsibility for that too, in a way. Yeah, a woman should take care of her body, and she should know she should take birth control or have a plan. But guys, you can't just say she should have known or she should have took care of that. It's part of your responsibility too. It's a two-person game. It's not a one-person game, you know. And both of y'all are adults, so y'all, that's a conversation y'all need to have beforehand.
Absolutely. And then two things I'll say to that. One is women control access to sex, men control access to relationships.
There you go. Yeah.
Right. And men need to understand that. You know, my wife, and I tell my wife all the time, look, the most important thing that she did for me was she had my child. So my DNA is into the next generation.
You're right. Exactly.
And the best thing I did for her is she has my last name, which means she represents my family.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that's what a lot of things that we've forgotten in our community is that when I marry you, you're not just yourself anymore. You are now Mrs. Brown. That means the way that you act out in town, the way that you carry yourself, the things that you say represent me, my family, my last name. And I think that women need to understand that more, and men need to understand that you need to be careful who you let carry your DNA into the next generation.
Exactly.
So don't be careless. Don't be a guy that's going there shooting up the club and then wondering why you have a young son or a young daughter running around in the community.
Yeah. My last thought on that, and then we'll go into the last things we're going to talk about before we close it out today, is the one reason I joined. A lot of people ask me, said, you got all these churches around here. Why didn't you join one of these churches? Why did you join Ebenezer Baptist Church? And a lot of people say, well, you just joined it because it's a famous church. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous thing. One reason I joined because during COVID, it was there. They have Ebenezer Everywhere mission, meaning no matter where you are, you can join their church and be an active member of it. And they make sure you're active. They keep you plugged in. They got a database. They got everything you need. If you need help, they got ways they can help you. It's just a great organization. But one of the best thing I like about it is its men's ministry. They take it serious. They take it serious. Every year we have a new statement, and one of the statement, our statement for this year, our mission for this year, are men of certainty in an uncertain time. Sort of what we've been talking about all night. Men of certainty. You moving with a purpose. You're not just moving. Men of certainty in an uncertain time. That's what we go by today. And when we have our Ebenezer Everywhere men's Bible study the first Monday of each month, in the church, you can have somewhere anywhere between 100 and 200 men having dinner from 6:30 to 7:30, and then Bible study starts at 7:30, and you can have anywhere from 15 to 20 men online total looking at this at the Bible study. That's how engrossed in this the men are. So I like that part of it, and I also like the part that as ambassadors of the church, the men are ambassadors of the church. We have some female ambassadors of the church, but most are men. It's the second level of security at our church because it's a famous church, and a lot of people come there. And we got a senator that his welfare is he's in danger. A lot of people don't understand that Martin Luther King's father got shot inside the church. You know, so as ambassadors, we're like ushers, but we're second level security also. So that's why I like that church, because of its men's ministry. I just think if we could get our churches, Muslim and Christian churches, if we could get our men ministry and have them strong and just not preach to the choir, meaning talking to each other, circle of conversation. You go out into the community and talk to those young men in the community too. I think we'll be better off. And I'll get off my high horse on that.
No, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I have met many of Christian brothers in my lifetime that I respect a lot. I have no qualms with that. I mean, because I'm a believer that you are eventually going to have to stand before who you consider to be your God and explain why you determined to do that. That has nothing to do with me. But we do have an ultimate plan to work together to be successful. I will say this: one small issue that I've always had with Christians, is I don't like the passiveness. And God is not passive. God has never been passive. God has destroyed cities, towns, people throughout the religious history.
Right.
I don't understand that. Muslims are not. We are not passive people. We are not aggressive people, but we are not passive. If you attack us, we are going to defend ourselves to the final person.
Right.
And I think that because of the religion that we've had in this country and what you put into what it was used for slavery and stuff like that, there's this passive sometimes belief that comes out of Christian men. And I'm like, we need to stop that.
Right.
God, you are a man. You are made in the image of God. And you need to not allow people to bully you or to put fear in you. If you are fighting on behalf of God, whether you call it a holy war or whatever, you're fighting on behalf of God, you are permitted to protect yourself and your family.
Yeah. And I agree with that 110%. And there, once again, our church is unique in the fact that we have to be aggressive because we protecting something. We protecting a legacy. We're protecting a legacy pretty much. And we don't play about that. We also go into prisons and stuff, and we go into halfway houses and stuff, and we talk to the young men there too.
Well, I mean,
something a lot of churches don't want to get into.
So. Yes, you do, and I mean you're that type of guy. But I mean, we go back to the nation.
Yeah,
the Nation of Islam. Most of them brothers in the Nation of Islam are brothers that have come out of jail. They've gone into jail and picked up men when they were in the bottom of their life and brought them and made them God-fearing men and stand-up men. And if they can do it, if they can go into prisons and jails across this country and turn men into to where they have faith and they're looking to God, our community should be able to do that. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh no, that's all right. We're going into our final stages of the show, and we're going to today's politics. And the only thing I'm gonna keep mine real short and sweet. The only thing I got to say about today's politics and everything is that everybody is looking around saying we going into a constitutional crisis. We may be you're already in a constitutional crisis. You're already. If you still saying maybe and not so sure, or that's a big word to put out there, if you're doing that right now, that's why Donald Trump is so successful right now, and he is successful in what he's trying to do right now because he got everybody on their heels, and he just told the courts today that I don't have to listen to you. And when you tell the court you don't have to listen to you, what's left? All the Republicans are scared of him. He done cut the American people. The American people have cut the Democrats' knees off by not giving them not one part of the three branches of government. So they're cut off at the knees. And so if he got Congress cut off at the knees, and he's saying he's not going to listen to the judicial branch, that's it. Game over.
Hey, well, I mean, like I said, I said this from day one. I mean, you know how I feel about the Democrats and their weakness, and it's just continuing. I mean, they don't do it. They don't have a policy. They don't have a plan, and they've lost people like me. I've been a Democrat my entire life. I supported Democratic policies. I call myself what they used to call blue dog Democrats. But yeah, I've been a Democrat. But I have a difficulty supporting the current Democratic platform.
Yeah.
I just have a problem. I mean, it's like, let's bring every crazy thing in the world in, every person who feels like they're marginalized into the Democratic Party. No accountability.
Right.
No standards. It's just, let's bring everybody in, and I'm supposed to accept that. No, I'm not. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I mean, I said before that I was 110% against them kicking Biden out and bringing Kamala in. I knew exactly what happened was going to happen.
Right. Gotcha. I understand. And it was a gamble. And I just hope that everybody understand that I think Kamala Harris did everything she could do, being put in the situation she was put in and everything.
She was put into a bad situation. She did the best she could, but she was never going to win this election. Look, I'm from the Midwest. I'm from places that nobody likes to talk about, but I'm telling you, people in those parts of this country are not going to vote for a female, and they're not going to vote for a Black woman. And people need to understand that, is that how do you get to where you get? What we could have done is put our time and our effort behind President Biden, regardless of how he was mentally, get the guy in the White House, and then he resigns. And now we got President Kamala Harris.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's all we had to do. Yeah. They did it with Reagan. Reagan was crazy as hell in office.
Yeah.
Mentally incapable of doing the job. They did it with him, and then they moved him out.
Exactly. You're right. So is it anything that you want to bring up today?
Not from a political standpoint. I mean, it is what it is, man. I mean, this country voted for him. And I would just sit back and get my popcorn and Coke and just sit and laugh, because this is what people who have never stepped foot probably 25 miles from where they were born and raised. Yeah. They have no concept of what the country is about, no concept of what the world is about, other than their own little area. I think I said last time with the USAID issue, somebody who worked for USAID and understands diplomacy. I feel sorry for parents, mothers and fathers, and brothers and sisters whose brothers and sisters are going to come home in body bags because of this idiotic stuff that our president and this administration is doing.
It's a it's a low hanging fruit for him. Hanging fruit, because everybody thinks it just has to do with helping foreign countries. That's what everybody thinks. So it's a low hanging fruit, because he put up this thing about American first. So people that voted, excuse me. The people that voted for him are saying, yeah, that's right. We ain't got to worry about those foreign people. They don't understand that it's our farmers that the government, excuse me, buy the food from, that feed these people. And so if the government is not buying food from the farmers, what's going to happen? So,
but the more important piece, before we go ahead and close out, the more important piece with that is preventing wars. People forget our history. Why did the people in Massachusetts do what they did? Because they're being taxed too much on a good that they were normally getting. Exactly. So you use food to prevent people from getting weapons. What USAID is doing in Africa by fighting what the Chinese are trying to do in Africa. Yes, it doesn't affect us today, but it will affect us 10, 15, 20 years down the line if China gets into Africa the way they want to get into Africa.
Yeah. But see, I don't even want to even get started in that. So it's so complex. It goes over everybody's head. When I even say a little bit about that, they be like, what you talking about?
They don't get it.
Yeah. So it's all good. So we're good. Thanks for showing up today and having another good show. I'd like to say what we're doing is a good thing, and we're unscripted, and we're just two brothers that just want to make a difference.
Yep.
And we don't have a big production or nothing, but we're gonna keep putting contents out there, and all we want is a couple people to listen to what we got to say. Go ahead and give them all our particulars before we go.
Yeah, so within the next day or two, this entire episode is going to be on our YouTube channel, Gents Making Sense. You can look it up. We got lots of content out there. Tony, as our producer, he's going to put some shorts out there. I'm going to take those shorts and put them on X at Gents MS. and Spoutable at Gents MS as well. You can go and look at our content. If you want to send us some recommendations or questions, you can reach us at gentsmakingsense@yahoo.com. Please subscribe. If you hit that subscribe button, now all of a sudden you're going to see all of our content is going to come right to you. Follow us on our social media platforms. You'll see all of our new content. We really appreciate people who are listening to what we have to say. We think it starts at our level by us. We can make a difference in our community. Therefore, we can make our country better. So appreciate it.
Do it now or I'll hunt you down. Smash like.
Yeah, and then with that, I'm gonna just put a real plug in there. I almost forgot plug. Here pretty soon, you're gonna see a couple episodes of my journey with prostate cancer, and I hope that'll help some men, Black men in particular, on health wise, because I don't think Black men, for the most part, really don't see the doctor like they should. And when we talk about a prostate, that's a sensitive issue, but I went through it and I want to share it with some people, and hopefully y'all will like it. The other thing I want to share, I think on the 19th of this month or later on this month, I'm going to be on my daughter's podcast, and we're going to be talking about Black Hawk Down. We're going to break that down and talk about that a little bit.
All right.
And I'll be advertising on that too, so maybe we'll get some new subscribers from that area too. And like I said, just
do it now or I'll hunt you down. Smash like. Do it now.